The wonders of technology. Baruch Hashem.
My kids wouldn't even do
So, Yofi, we sang, we joked. Baruch Hashem. It is important to go into limud with energy, with simcha, as especially since we're learning something that's sort of sad. Perek Daled, which is what we dealt with in Hoshea. If I remind you guys that we talked about that, the idea there is dat, the chisaron hadat. It's mentioned quite a few times. If you can open up to Hoshea Perek Daled, just to see it again. We're not going to go through the perek. We actually did the whole perek pretty much. Now we're delving in deeper, just to point out the places. Nachon, ve'en dat Elohim ba'aretz, at the end of pasuk Aleph. Nidmu ami miblidat in pasuk Vav, ki ata hadat ma'asta. Okay, so we have there's an issue of the dat, and we were dealing here with a ma'amar called Drishat Elohim, which appears in Rav Kook's book called Ikvei Atzon. Actually, the different parts to Ikvei Atzon. This is one of the smaller essays towards the end of the book. It's actually quite short. It's all here in front of you. I admit. And what we started dealing with is that you really have to learn. Now, you really have to learn. You have to think and learn about Hashem. Remember, we talked about learning about Hashem. And he starts talking about what happens when you don't. When you don't really try to attempt to understand to the best of our abilities Hashem, the concepts. What is Hashem saying to us? Try to crystallize. I wouldn't say rationally, because rationally is not the right word, but using our mind and all our abilities, our spiritual abilities, to try to get closer and understand exactly what Hashem wants from us and who He is in order for us to be like Him. Okay? These are things that need to be actively thought out and learned and discussed and analyzed and using everything we can to try to figure it out. Now, what happens when we don't? So here we're going to start. If you guys look on the page, it's Miniat Drishat Hashem. It's pretty much right in the middle of the first page. Here it says here, it's the very beginning of a line. Miniat Drishat Hashem. You guys see it? Ha ha ha! I'm sure you got the wrong page. So you'll have to share. בסדר. מניעת דרישת השם. והסרת החפץ מהמדע העיוני היותר מהיר ונשגב. We got it? Are we good? We good. Shushan, we good? Ezra, we good?
I have a different one. I don't know what I have.
I got you all. I fooled you guys all. I was really good today. I had you all fooled. Well, we want Hoshea Perek Daled, Iyun b'mashmaut da'at Hashem.
Hey. This is Daled.
No, but Iyun b'mashmaut da'at Hashem.
The footnote of Daled?
Maybe it's...
Give me that. That's not even for you.
That's
the one we want. So look with Shushan.
I may have it here.
Iyun b'mashmaut da'at Hashem. There's so many pages here. Oh, so you look together? Okay, they'll look together. Give it here. Yalla, let's go. Kadima. Miniat Drishat Hashem. If we deny or we stop doing Drishat Hashem, what he called the trying to understand and comprehend, והסרת החפץ מהמדע העיוני היותר מאיר ונשגב, and leaving the will for the more intense learning and the greater, brighter, higher learning, נעשות בתחילה מעצלות. Right? It starts out, remember we talked about this last time, מתחילה מעצלות. It starts off from laziness. מנטייה לדברים רק גסים ומקלות דעת. At first, it just comes from laziness and enjoying the material things of life. Okay? דברים גסים ומקלות דעת. And not really attempting to think very deeply. Kalut dat here isn't a frivolity per se as much as not really, just it's too deep for me. I'm gonna stay with Netflix. That's sort of stay right there. It keeps my the depth of my ability to go. So that's what I'm saying. Kalut dat. It's not like It's not someone who's, just frivolous. He can't really, he's not trying his mind too much. אבל במשך הזמן, האומה מתרגלת עם חליה. This is what we talked about. ונעשה לה טבע שני. So what happens after you sink into this for a long time? You start identifying with it. And you start saying, this is me. This is my world. This is my culture. This is my thought patterns. This is my strive. I strive for whatever is being presented in the material world I'm in. And it becomes a second nature. Nasala teva sheni. It becomes a second nature. That's what teva sheni means. שאף אם תתעורר התעוררות קלושה, לשוב להאיר באור הדעת את השם. Even if at some point the soul or the soul of Israel sends out these like SOSs, maybe בכל זאת, try to get closer to Hashem, לא תוכל כל כך על נקרא, it's not so easy. ההרגל של המחשכים, the regularity, not the regularity, give me a better word, הרגל. Routine, thank you, of the mechshachim, of the darkness, והמסרים הצרים, and the very tight tsar. No. Tsar. There's wide and there's right. Gesher tsar meod. The narrow, the very narrow. In someone's in jail. He's imprisoned. The very narrow imprisonment. Shel hapitronim hadimyoniyim. לכל הדברים הרמים שהעולם מושתת, and this is an amazing sentence that we're going to go in a little later more. The narrow incarnation of the imaginary solutions for all the great ideas and issues that the world is founded on. In other words, there's so many shallow solutions to human need for happiness, for the human need, which are great, important things. The human will for peace, the human will for all the good things in the world. There's such, as Rav Kook, narrow, small, imaginary solutions to these things that you sink into when you're dealing with the material, when you're completely sunk in the material world, and you think the solutions are simple and shallow and narrow, and usually self-serving. Also, I'll add, he didn't say that. That's and then the solutions lead to the problems because they're not solutions, and they don't give the solutions for the soul that demands a deeper, meaningful, spiritual solution to these real problems and real issues. They turn man into being imprisoned in manacles of iron. It's a good word. Manacles. Right? It's a good word, people.
It's handcuffs.
That's how you say them too, right?
It's even more than handcuffs. It's not attached to.
But that's how you say it, manacles.
I've never heard that. I've never heard the word.
Okay. Ad she'im yirtzeh. I just need one person to know the word, and then it's okay. Ad she'im yirtzeh lefatech et asurav, until even if he wants to, listen to what he does. If he wants to take himself out of these chains, yargish be'atzmo shu ne'ezav v'nichlash. He'll feel that he's weakened and alone. Ne'ezav v'nichlash. Ve'ki'ilu bor ha'soar v'cheshchato hu me'ono ha'tiv'i. And he feels like his jail is his natural habitat. And to try to come out of it, you have like what's it called, the crease, when not the Stockholm system. No, when you stop when you're addicted to something and then you lose it.
Caesar.
See, there's a word. There's got to be a word for it.
Withdrawal.
What? Withdrawal is the word, right? Withdrawal. You have withdrawal symptoms. In other words, you're taking away my life. Yeah, you're taking away my love. You're taking away my life force. Take away my TV. What will give me? I'm using a low example, but in a sense, it's not so low. How will I enjoy myself in this world? It's a real statement. In other words, this has become my enjoyment to where I don't know what other enjoyment is. I don't know what spiritual enjoyment is anymore. Can I enjoy something that's not laid into me with all the pyrotechnical advances that we have? Can I enjoy myself sitting down and contemplating God when contemplating other things are more exciting? It's boring. It's not life affirming. It's not. I feel it's not me. Hey, it's not me. I'm losing. I'm losing here when you're taking this away from me. So I'm empty. I don't want to be empty. No one wants to be empty. No one wants to feel alone. Doesn't want to feel I have nothing to live for. Doesn't have to feel right. I mean, there are, I think a lot of us, even in some way, or we've been there. What do you live for? You live for let's go sit down and whatever it is, drink a beer, get drunk. I'm not joking. Yeah. I think it's a real thing. I think it's a real thing. Lose it with it in wine. Yeah, yes, go try. I think most of the world almost is in this place.
The surprising thing is even the Hollywood singers, the Hotel California.
Of course.
The prison of your own device.
That's what it meant. Whatever, or sit down. We don't have spiritual solutions to a spiritual urge. In other words, the need to go get drunk is a need to fill me up with something. So it will be whiskey, or it will be women, or it will be who knows what, sports. Or it'll be sports, or imaginary worlds that we make, or baseball, Machel, or things that you make in your world, and you can't imagine a world without it. And that's what he said. That's what Rav Kook said. You can't imagine a world without. Am Yisrael makes the mistake of thinking this is life. Shatani, quotes a pasuk, Shatani bebor tachtiyot b'machashachkim b'metzulot kalu v'lo yitzeh. I'm being thrown into a pit, bottomless pit possibly, tachtiyot, I'm not sure how to say tachtiyot, b'machashachkim b'metzulot, in the darkness, in the shadows, I am imprisoned and I cannot get out. He's a psuki, right? Hapitronim הבהמיים הבאים מהדמיון הפראי לכל השאלות היותר נשגבות. The animalistic solutions that come from the wild imagination for all the great questions that all of the life of the all of civilization and the individual are talui bahem, dependent on them. נעשים כל כך דבקים הנפש הכללית עד שנראה בסקירה ראשונה שאם יפרוש האדם מהם, it seems at first that if man leaves all these plastic solutions and goes to something else, and instead of them, ותחתיהם ייקח לו מושגים מהירים, ברורים וטהורים, יישאר כעובד דרך, he'll be lost. If instead he starts looking at these great ideas, these great concepts of the betterment of man, the betterment of mankind, he feels oved derech, he's lost his way. Be'en chom balev, no heat in his heart, or no warmth in his heart. Be'en machshava u'ma'amad leruach, no thought and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. U'lema'alach ha'chaim, and there's no life force in this. For the procession of life, it's the wrong way. I go off this, I'll become lifeless, nothing. A little yeshiva bacher who sits in with no give me a word, zest for life. What would it be? No, there's a better word. No
motivation to live. No meaning.
Oh, there we go. That's it. That's French, right?
That's French.
It makes sense, right? That means like love of life, kaze, nachon, or life force, kaze. Okay, I didn't know how to say it, but I hear. בסדר? זהו המצב השומם שבא מרפיון ידיים מאורה של תורה. This is what happens, this barrenness that happens when people stop learning from the light of Torah. נתנני שוממה כל היום דבה, ולא עוד, he quotes these פסוקים, ולא עוד שידמה שכל חייו ומוסריים הנה חייבים לנהג דווקא מציורי הפתיות. He thinks that his ethical life has to draw from these imaginary pictures he has, from a thought processes of blindness and not dat, and the opposite of dat. ואם אור נוגה יופיע, שוב אינו מוצא דרכו המוסרי, לא האישי ולא הלאומי, וקל וחומר שלו הישראלי. If and any time something comes up, he has no idea, it has nothing to do, it doesn't have anything to do with him. ואם יחפוץ להתאמץ וללכת במסילת הדעת, ידמה לו כאילו עולמו נחשך. Just he goes over this again. If he wants to, if he even starts and attempts to walk the path of dat Hashem, the knowledge of a God, it seems that his whole world is gone dark, and all his meitarav nitku, all the things that are holding him up, are cut off suddenly. And he quotes the pasuk, Az yikra'anuni velo ene, yishachrununi velo yimtzaunini, tachat ki san'u dat, v'irat Hashem lo bacharu. Okay. They will call me and I won't answer. They will search for me and they won't find me because they hated the dat and they didn't choose Yirat Hashem. להכשיר את האדם, מכל שכן את האומה, לצאת ממצב אל מצב, מחושך אל אור. ולהיות עם זה שלם בכל האור והטוב והמוגבל ומפוזר עם כל המון המחשבות. אין דרך. Now we say, how does this get fixed? Okay, this situation, I'll stop for a minute. This is what Hoshea is talking about. Okay, let's go back to Hoshea. This is what Hoshea is talking about. A nation that lost it. They've lost their spiritual ideals. They're living a life of a material world with its material enjoyments, and already their philosophy has turned into material. And everything, it's like a complete circle. You're closed, you're encircled in a closed a world view that has no break. And when it's occasionally broken, it looks very dim and uninviting. And who wants to go down that path? I start approaching it and I lose all my life force. I go, oh, forget it, I'm not going there. And I go back into my cave. I go back into my darkness. So Rav Kook says, how do you break the circle? That's the question here. How do you break the circle? How do we break the circle?
Siktat.
Galut.
Nobody wanted that answer.
We never learn.
Nobody wanted that.
1 second. So here, Rav Kook. Rav Kook's after the Galut, remember. Okay?
The only thing you bring back to
so it's not Galut, he's going to say. אין דרך כי אם על ידי הצירוף הבא על ידי ייסורים ודכדוכי הנפש. This person we have to break his enjoyment with life. Not we. His enjoyment with life has to be break, because in his worldview, life is full of, it's just enjoyable. Enjoy. When he starts suffering, this person, suddenly life doesn't give him the answers he had until now. I think I told you once, one of my friends who was religious, non-religious, came back to be religious. He told me why he became religious again. Remember when I told you guys this? He said, when he was non-religious, he was around a bunch of, older people. Older religious men. Religious men. And he saw every day, they're so excited. They go to the shul, and they sit, and they have shiurim, and they learn. He said, and he saw older non-religious people. And no, he said, it's all to relive all the enjoyments of the past. They use manim, right? In other words, as again, I'm not saying this is right about all but this is what he said. This is what he said. This is what made him become religious again. In his day, what he told me at that point.
I still don't get it.
What?
I still don't get it.
He said that when the world you live in is built on enjoyment, then as you get older, you can't enjoy the same things you enjoyed when you were young and crazy and doing all kinds of things. You can't drink till you drop. You can't have women until you drop. You can't go out into the world and do crazy things until you drop. You can't. But physically you can't. Spiritually you can't either. So you just reminisce about what was, and you wait for death. Because what is there now? Even now you see this grabbing onto youth, right? Trying to hold on to youth as much as you can, because what other enjoyment can I have when I let go of that? What would remain for me if I can't do all the things I enjoyed myself when I was younger? What do I have left to do? What? So,
Bingo.
right. If that's what we're looking forward to every day, it's a bingo, then we may be in trouble. I'm saying it as opposed to the Datim, he was saying, who have Torah, who have meaning, who have their children, also family, a secular world. How much family is around you? Very, very, very little, unless you're religious in the world, right? And secular people, it's one of the saddest things in the world is loneliness. That happens later. They have one child. I remember we have a good friend in school, an older woman. Who has 2 kids. Had 2 kids. She got divorced from her husband a long time ago. 2 kids. One of them was tragically killed in an accident. Another one lives in Houston, Texas. That's it. She's alone. Older Russian woman is alone. Mamash alone. And this, if you have 1 or 2 children, or you're in a different world. You're in a different. And just the idea of a richness. Now, I'm not saying this out of egotistical. I want someone to watch over me when I'm. But there's so much meaning going on, and your family is around you, and you're involved with this one, and you're the Saba for someone. Even that itself gives a huge purpose. You're a huge, important dmut in your grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's lives. Very, very influence. So much. A grandfather, a grandmother can be so important. Sometimes even more important than parents in certain stages in life. It's amazing. These are things that have meaning, but they come, apparently they come when you realize that things are greater than yourself. And things are greater than my own personal enjoyment that Am Yisrael sunk into. This binge world of doing everything. So Rav Kook says, but it's closed. And when you get older, but then it's already too late in a sense. How do you break it? You break it when the world isn't so fun anymore. That's when you break it. That's how Hashem breaks it. Let's put it that way. Yisurim come to break these concepts of have individually and nationally. Individually, it's Yisurim, it's affliction, personal affliction. This is Rav Kook. What?
No, this is Rav Kook. Yeah.
This is what Rav Kook is saying. And as a nation, it's Galut. That's what he says, as a nation. In Israel, we talked about this before, I'm coming back to it here. In Israel, the whole nation was like that. It was a worldview shared as a national worldview. The government condoned this kind of thing. They acted this way. They were drinking all the time. We saw the yain happening here a couple times in our parak in the next psuki, right? Further towards the end of the parak. There's wine and hitolelut and avodah zarah and znut. Remember, you guys? I don't remember if you guys remember the end of parak Dalet. All those were the 3 words that came again: znut, avodah zarah, and yain. And they go together. But this was what everyone was doing. This is what they would teach in the schools. This is what you would learn. This is what you would see on the billboards. This is what the leaders did. This is what the role models presented. And how do you break that? There's no way to break that. But you have to show them that it doesn't work. And exile took that away from us. And that says, exile took it away from us. You have to remember, not the latest exiles, okay? But most of exile that we've been in, the Jews didn't really have it good. Sometimes they were allowed to live, some were rich, but in a whole, they could sink into the other cultures. That could happen. That's a danger, and that happened, obviously. But for their own culture, they couldn't adopt that as Am Yisrael. They had to focus on what is our life. We couldn't be involved in the others through exile. We couldn't really integrate with the nations most of the time until later. And even when then, we obviously were kicked out and killed and hated even then. And we said before, that's one of the methods that Hashem keeps us straight. We talked about in Shoftim also, talking about it here too. That's how it's done here. So let's we're going to jump down. Down. Okay, it's right in the middle. Here. Sorry, guys. You go from the bottom of the page up to here. It says Hayisurim. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines from the bottom in the middle of the line. Hayisurim. There's a period, Tvalim Azarim, and then Hayisurim. You see it? הייסורים מונעים את האפשרות מלצייר את ארץ החיים בנעימות על פי מלוא של המקרים החיצוניים. The affliction denies the possibility of presenting the value of life as enjoyable by all the external events that happen. בהיותם כולם רעים ומרים, because they're all bad when you're being afflicted. על כן, רק אז יבוא העוז הפנימי והחיים יתייצבו על פי ערכם עצמי. Only then will come the inner strength, and life will reestablish itself by its real value. וכיוון שעולמו הפנימי הוא באמת מיוסד על האור ועל הטוב. And because the real world or the real existence is really founded on light and good, כי אם שאותו הזיוף של העולם החיצוני הביא עליו את המארה ואת המגרת, and only the זיוף.
And the
forgery, right? The forgery of the outer world is what brought all these afflictions on us. כיוון שנעשה על ידי הייסורים הרבים, נכנע ומוכשר להסתכלות פנימית. After he gets bashed, he is now able to say, oh, maybe this isn't reality. I thought this was reality. Maybe reality isn't quite as, maybe there's something else. This reality it's called into it's a false lead. It doesn't lead me to happiness. It doesn't lead me to good. It doesn't lead me to be satisfied. It doesn't lead me to meaning. It's leading me somewhere else. But now that it's so broken and hurtful, there must be something else. That's what it breaks down. כבר הוא בטוח שבצאתו מהחושך של ציוריו הרגילים אל האור של הדעה והדרישה יהיה תמיד מוכשר להעתיק את כל הטוב והחיים גם על המצב החדש הנאור והאמיץ. After, once it opens up, you believe that you may be able to see greater things. זאת תהיה טובה שיוצאת לכנסת ישראל. אשר כאדם עברו ברית ותלך חושך ולא אור, בימים שהייתה מוכשרת לפרוח ולשגשג, עד שלמרות הכישרון הניסה הגנוז בתוכה לאור האלוהי, לאור האמת, הצדק והדת, עבדה בכללותה את ההרגל של שימוש אורה. Even though Am Yisrael is so should be able to see all this goodness and other things, they fell. ואור הגדול המופיע בקרבה מאור תורת חיים ודעת אלוהים, הם אלוהים אמת, הוגדר וחשך בעריפיה. They had the chance. Am Yisrael had the chance. They was potent. They had the potential to be on this highest level of looking life as it should, with the goodness and the depth that it has. But they fell into where they fell. ההרגל המאפיל מקיר הברזל המפסקת בין ישראל לאביהם של שמיים. גרם he's going over this again. Eh? Hagalut. You see the bottom line, the very, very bottom line. The third word on the bottom line. Hagalut, exile. Kura barzel, the iron furnace, or the furnace of iron. the one that takes out all the other metals, that impurities. Zikek v'tziref et ha'uma. What's the word for taking bad metals out of good metals?
No.
It could be. I mean, it's purifying metal, but there's got to be like a word. There's got to be like a real word for it. Mizakek, that's what it means. Mitzaref. Well, so again, I know pure. So
it's for sure a word.
So the galut was the oven that did this to us. It purified us. Hotzi min hakoach harapo dat atzmuta et netiyata gnuzot ativiot la. It brought refining. It refined us and brought us back to our natural love of goodness and chaye yosher v'ta'aram on the next page already. The life of straightness and purity. באופן שבכל פינות שתהיה פונה בכל צורה שהחיים יראו לה על ידה, תכיר את האור ואת הטוב. Just I want to point out, that's what we're supposed to do, just another thing. In Am Yisrael are supposed to be looking for the light and the good, right? Et ha'or ve'et hatov. That's what a vibrant Jewish nation is doing. They are powerfully, intently, I would say like alive. They're alive and looking for the good and finding God all over the place and everywhere and seeing how this is another opportunity to redeem the world and another opportunity to move the knowledge of God forwards. And it's another opportunity to understand Hashem and comprehend Him. And Hashem is good. So that means my comprehension led me to a good place. If you see someone who's all the time or complaining and all negative, this man does not have Ruach Hashem in him. Ruach Hashem, Drishat Hashem will be someone, the closer he approaches Hashem, the greater his optimism will be, the greater his love will be, the greater his positivism will be. He'll just be a positive person.
Where does Rav Kook then? Is Rav Kook? What examples does he have then? Bavel, Spain. Are these what we're talking about?
All of exile.
But in those cases, it's the cream of the crop.
What's the cream of the crop? Who survived?
Who survived and reached this level to where you flip.
Oh, no one reached this level yet. Oh no, mapito. This is what this is supposed to be happening. This is what we're doing, Machon Meir. This is what Meir is to light. Machon Meir. I'm only half joking. This is what Rav Kook says. Am Yisrael, returning to Eretz Yisrael now. This is your program. This is what you have to do. I'm explaining to you what happened.
But the galut is purify impurities of what? Of the nation?
Of these wrong worldviews. Now, we're back in Eretz Yisrael and we're being attacked again by these worldviews. Let's not make a mistake. Okay, Rav Kook was very optimistic. So his belief is not that. He says that Am Yisrael is coming back with a greater capability of understanding Hashem. This is Rav Kook's optimism. There are people now who say he was too optimistic and maybe even wrong. Some people will say after many generations later. I'm not one of them.
You can just take Yecheskel and say, first I bring you back, then I cleanse you.
Nachon. There's a procession.
Which takes out the galut.
And we told,
Hashem's going to cleanse once we're back, not necessarily.
So he says, again, he's reading Hoshea, right? Hoshea, the whole parak we just read was how galut is another step in tshuva. We talked about that greatly, and that's what it's the only way you can understand galut, really. Because if Hashem loves us, right, that was the whole first 3 chapters of Hoshea, was to make the foundation of everything Hashem is going to say to Hoshea is part of a love process. Nachon? Everything is part of a love process. So galut is also part of a love process. It's not just a punishment. Now we have to explain what kind of love is there in exile. Rav Kook's giving it his slant of what's going on, but he's going to say it's Hoshea. Okay, so and let's go back. So that's enough for Rav Kook mivchinatenu. Let's go back for a minute to Rabbi Nachman on the first page. Okay, or before we go to Rabbi Nachman. Thank you. Yeah, I love it.
The Rav Kook was too depressing.
No, he wasn't depressing. He wasn't depressing. Rav Nachman's up here in the Likutei Moharan. We'll see him in a second.
No, because
On
if
your
you
page,
say
on the
Galut
page.
is a tool, then you see all the suffering Galut, and you say, okay, yeah, it was a good thing. It's very hard to...
4 viewers out
Of course, Rav Kook says that though.
I know.
What?
4 viewers.
I find it very
That's a lot.
That's good.
So, but let's
Everybody's
continue here.
double-checking if it's working.
Let's continue for a minute. I just want to go on the pasuk again. Nidmu ami mibli hadat. So he's gonna emphasize what Rav Kook sort of hinted at. He's gonna say it, but the first pshutim is nidmu ami mibli hadat. The perush in that is brought, most of the parshanim on the regular commentators say nidmu is kilu, were destroyed. Maybe they were silenced, like dmama. The word dmama is right, lamodom, right? It's the silence. So they've been silenced or been destroyed because they had no knowledge. Mibli dat. But Rabbi Nachman is going to say that my people got lost in their imagination because they didn't have that. Nidmu from the word dimyon, from the word imagination. Okay, it's a new perush be'etzem and that's pasuk. Nidmu ami mibli dat isn't they're destroyed because they didn't have dat, or they are quieted, they have nothing to say because they had dat. No. They run into imagination when they're not dealing with Torah. And this is the so let's take a look at Rav Nachman. One must watch your eyes because of or in fear and because mikoach. Ishmor et ha'ayin mikoach hamedame, so that you don't run into koach hamedame. Koach hamedame is imagination. Okay, I'm gonna explain it maybe a little more.
What you're looking at?
Right. V'afilu mishu tov ayin. Someone even who has a good eye, who sees things goodly. Goodly. Tzarich lishmor mizeh, has to be careful. Kmo she'anu ro'im, ki afilu mi sheyesh lo re'ya yafa yachol litot al yadeh sheroeh mirachok. V'nidme lo lefech min ha'emet. Even someone who has really good eyesight, Rav Nachman, if you guys know, always plays around greatly with the physical world. He loves to play with the physical world and see the spiritual meanings of the physical world. He says even someone who has good eyesight, right? He's playing about good eye, and he's not really talking about eyesight, but now he's playing with the eye. Even someone who has very good eyesight, when he's very far away from something, he makes mistakes. What he saw, you don't see it correctly. He imagines he saw something which he didn't really see. Okay, he says koach medame is inherently kashur to lashon hara. Again, also Rabbi Nachman loves to connect all kinds of things. He has like this is pchinat this, and this is like this, and this is like this. I'm not going to all the things. I can't explain it. It's not like I know it and I can explain it. I'm going to point on the point we're about to read now. Ki koach hamedame hu koach habehemiyut. Ki gam behema yesh lazeh koach hamedame. He says imagery, the imagination is an animalistic trait of man. Even animals have it. V'hamotzi diba nofel behemiyut. And someone who talks about bad things, like lashon hara and stuff, hu nofel behemiyut. He falls into an animalistic behavior. V'alken nidgaber alav koach hamedame. And therefore he starts imagining things. Shu koach habehemiyut. Ki motzi diba uksil. Someone who starts talking, and again he's reading a pasuk that says motzi diba uksil. Someone who talks badly is a stupid person. Ksil. V'kshe'adat nistalek mimenu, right? Is ksil. He's stupid. He doesn't have dat. Nofel me'avat Hashem yitbarach v'nofel le'avat habehemiyut. Bechinat. Here we are. Our pasuk. Ki ata hadat ma'asta. Ve'maasecha mikohen li. Kohen haynu b'chinat Avraham oavi. B'chinat ata kohen. B'chinat v'kemat kohen. ואז מתגבר עליו כוח המדמה, שהוא כוח הבהמיות. בחינת נדמו עמי מבלי הדת. נדמו היינו כוח המדמה. He says, imagination in itself is a very dangerous tool. Okay? It's a dangerous tool. Now, it also says, in the end of Hoshea, biyad nevim adame. The tool of prophecy is imagination. Imagination is a really important tool we have, but it's a dangerous tool we have, because imagination, when you use it in its lower state, is very, very powerful, very powerful. Our generation, the generation of screens, is very involved in imagination, very much so. A good story evokes our imagination, but nothing can evoke our imagination. Maybe nothing. Who knows what we're going to invent in the future? But we already have, right? The 3D worlds, the virtual reality that is getting to. My friend works in. My friend works in one of these big things. I think he works in Google. And they're like really working on these glasses or these ways that you could really connect the worlds. In other words, you could be walking and seeing, like, sort of, you see a sign, a real sign, like you touch it and it opens up. We're so immersed in imagination that it's very, very, very powerful. Let's put it that way. The dimyon is something that is antithetical to dat almost. When you're there, it grabs your now. You turn off your brain per se. It's its own language almost, and it's important. Rav Nachman's not saying, at this point he is, but Rav Nachman doesn't say in imagination, therefore we shouldn't use our imagination. No, imagination, be'emet, has a tool in prophecy, in learning. There's a place for imagination, but it itself has to be very careful with it, with using imagination. And he says this is what's happening in a door that sinks into its imagination when you give yourself up to animalistic behavior. You give yourself to animalistic behavior, your imagination is in its element. Let's put it that way. It's in its element. It loves that place because it's very easy to use powerful images in the physical world, right? I mean, sexual images and gluttonous images and violent images. These are all things that really draw you and draw our emotions to it, and it's a very, very powerful thing. Nachman says it's the danger of sinking there, and this is what happens. So again, in our world, we have to realize we're in a danger in a sense. We're in a danger. Again, imagery is not bad per se. It's a tool that we can use for either way. But when we're in a world that is so low, let's put it that way, then imagery is going to be used for that world. And we have to realize that we sink into it and deal with it. Its effect on us is unbelievable. Unbelievable. In the spirit world, right? Imagery is a very important tool. I learned once a course called Dimyon Novea, which is using imagery for healing. Jewish imagery was the guy who developed this shita, Amit Kedem. Very, very interesting. And it's fascinating how the statement is that our soul talks the language of imagery. And there's a very big effect of the images you have in how we are, who we act, what we think, what motivates us, what moves us, in the lower levels, in the subconscious levels. Very, very much imagery is involved there. And it was very powerful to learn and see it being practiced. Didn't do much with it afterwards, but it always holds me very strong. And the Rabbi Piasetzna, on the other hand, if anyone's learned the Rabbi Piasetzna, deals with imagery all the time. That's one of his major chidushim, using imagery to try to bring out the holy sparks, because it's a very fine-tuned tool that works on the spirit. It works on the nefesh, neshama. It works on these ruach. It works on these movements within the soul, and that's why it's so dangerous. When it's used wrong, it keeps you very strongly in the lower stages, if it is, and when it's used properly, it's what the prophets use. That's what they use. Biyad Nevim Adameh.
How can you properly use it? Because I think the danger is like avodah zarah.
For sure, Avodah
How
Zarah.
you properly use it?
So the Rebbe Piasetzna, the Machal, talks about imaging Torah stories, imaging Torah. He also talks about imagining yourself the way you want to be. Real serious using your serious imagination. This means like real till the last prat. What will Sukkot look like? What will Shabbat look like? What will I look like when I'm in my right state? Could I sit down now? Maybe we should have done this, right? 10 minutes now, we all close our eyes.
Nope. Please, we're not doing that.
2 minutes?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm not doing it right now, but you're just pushing me to do it though, and you say that nope. To sit there really and use your imagination to picture things. Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash was an example of how proper imagery is to be used. It's very imagery oriented. The Kruvim, in that sense, are holy imagery, right? I mean, it's not easy to understand how you could have Kruvim, Avodah Zarah, no Pesel, but yes, Kruvim. It's not an easy, let's throw out the answer, so it's so simple. When Yechezkel sees, right, in Yechezkel Aleph, when he sees the divine court and everything that happens, it's so full of imagery, right? The angels with the wings and the feet and the heads and the four faces. You're like, whoa, this is like a movie. Everyone loves reading it because it's so interesting, because it perks our imagination. It talks to these images. These images have spiritual worlds behind them. But all these places are places you use them. You would really use them. When you're davening, you're supposed to imagine yourself before Hashem. Mamash. That's where your imagery comes from. It's really important. It's a place to have that. Standing for, what does that mean, standing before Hashem? Where am I? What am I? What's going on here? There's a lot of places that we use it. When we learn Torah, we could stop and think of this. We're just learning Shoftim, right? Ehud ben Gera, this story. Some of it's a little gory, but parts of it to really image. What does it mean to be Meshuabad? What does it mean to be there? We sort of like learn, right? So the nations came and they conquered Am Yisrael, and Am Yisrael yelled out, "Stop!" What were they going through? What were they going through? Let's stop for a minute. Let's think what they were going through. Let's imagine what they were going through. These are all things. These are kelim that strengthen your imagination. Rabbi Piasetzna, again, being someone who really put this out. He says, this is how you should learn Torah. This is what he said, Mamash. This is how you should do it. And he brings examples. He has a couple examples of Mamash. He tells Yetziat Mitzrayim, the emotions people felt when he writes as a story. And he talks about Pesach, the excitement before Pesach, the excitement before Yom Kippur. Like what a Jew should think, what a Jew should be happening in his mind. It also says, important part, and this is an active thing, is whenever you suddenly feel something move inside. He says like a movement of the soul. Like suddenly you're happy, you experience something great, like something moved you. You suddenly feel like something meaningful happened. Stop and give it place. Sing something. Imagine something. Take that little movement and give it, write it down. Take it and make it larger in your world. So that's not only imagery. That's anything. But imagery is one of the kelim to do this. Oh, you suddenly feel positive about something. How will your life be positive? Hala? What will this lead? What could be great today? What could be great today? What would be a great day today? Can you imagine what it would be like if every morning before we started our day, which we usually start quite grumpy because it's very early in the morning and we're tired and went to sleep late, like today, and you wake up in the morning and before you do anything you say, I'm going to imagine today what I would love to happen today. What would be great to happen today? Not what I would love to, have eat a sandwich here at the thing. What would be great to happen today if it was really a great day? What would I feel? How would I be? What would I think? Right? If you could like sit for half an hour and really like, how will I relate to my kids? How will I relate to my wife? Let's imagine that. What would be the best way for that to happen? The effect that would have on you afterwards of that day would be unbelievable. You wouldn't even have, you don't have to try to achieve it. The effect of the image in your mind will move your actions. It doesn't mean it will happen exactly the same way, but it's the power to do it, to actively image something, will affect how you act and who you are.
It's like self-motivation.
It's like self-motivation. It's like athletes, right? What do athletes do? The Havdil. Very, very much. Many athletes, right? They do these imagery sessions.
I know, like Alex Honnold, the really famous rock climber. He like imagined himself like in Yosemite, like climbing each like.
Right, before he did it, obviously.
Before, yeah.
Right, very much so. And the sports people, mamash, do it. It's called sports psychology. And part of what they do this is you sit and you imagine yourself in the game. Your shot, your hit, whatever it is, your pitch, you mamash imagine it. And then when you're there, it's a whole different ballgame. Tarote mashma. Both meanings. What?
You kind of play in your imagination.
Yeah, I did that one time when there was an interview. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When there was a rabbi.
Right. Rabbi, what's his name?
I
Okay.
was like, oh, what's it? What? How should I? It's a camera, you know. I was nervous and I was imagining how should I behave, and like the assistant, there was a camera. Like, wow, you should become a lecturer or professor in the university.
But I'm saying it's not. There's even thinking about it and imagining it. It's not the same thing. I mean, we're off on a tangent here because this is not what we're talking about. But it's just imagery in the past has been something that was very powerful for me. It actually started. Well, one of the things it started for is when I went to a doctor, and I had warts, and he said, and I said, oh, what should I do with the warts? He said, really, the best thing to do is imagine them away. And I was like, my mother, I was there like, okay, let's go to the next doctor. When I got older, and I had some warts. This is already in Shir Dalet. When I was later in yeshiva, I was 20. For a month, I sat every day for 5 minutes, and I imagined my warts away. I'm not joking. I'm not kacha. No, this is the first person witness. Okay, I sat and I thought about them and I talked to them and I imagined what the sending. No, it's fine. Sending health and things to the, and they went away. They just disappeared. I'm not. It's not they. Whatever. After I finished, I did it for around a month. I think if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly. They just like over the course of a couple of days, they just disappeared. Kacha. Again, many elements are connected to the image because the body and the soul. The imagery is one of the connections between body and soul. It's in the seams of a lot of things. So it's on camera now. It's there for all generations. But it's true. It's a bemet kacha, a true story legamre. Again, I wouldn't have shared it had the doctor not told me years before that to do that. It took me years. He told me to do it years ago, and I was like, "What are you nuts?" But when I started getting to imagery through the Rabbi Piasetzna, I said, "Listen, this is a real thing. Let's see if it works, bemet," and it did. I can't say I do this all the time or use all the time, but the tool is especially effective. Tov, yalla. That's Perek Daled. Goodbye, Perek Daled. Let's take a look at Perek Hey, a short Perek. We're going to see the first half Be'ezrat Hashem of Perek Hey today. Beseder. Shimu. Yalla. We're going to read Perek Hey. It's 15 psukim. They're yachasid short psukim. Beseder. So we'll read them, and then we'll be dealing with the commentary today. Okay, so the commentary today. Next week, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll do the next half of the parak. I don't think we're going to be diving into like I did now, like dive into a deeper concept. I think we're just going to stay on the commentary level and go on. We'll go a little quicker here through parak Hey. Shim'u zot hakohanim והקשיבו בית ישראל ובית המלך. סליחה, בית ישראל ובית המלך האזינו. כי לכם המשפט, כי פח הייתם למצפה ורשת פרוסה על תבור. I'm going to just translate it, mamash in the translation level, okay? Because the psukim are very hard to understand. Even though I'll translate them, they have no meaning per se. You need the commentary to understand what's going on here. It wouldn't make sense just to as you could read the English, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the words make sense, but what in the world is going on? So listen.
Dalit talking to Yehuda. Now we're going back to the Kohanim or no?
We told Yehuda to stay away from Israel, right? That's what we said. Nachon. Ata, right? Im zoneh ata Israel al yesham Yehuda, val tavo al gigal val telu beit aven val tishavu shchai Hashem. Right? That was pasuk tetvav. Now we're going back to the Kohanim. Okay? U beit hamelech. Here we add. Yes. Now you're going to see that the commentaries all say we're talking about a new aspect a little bit. Even though we're still talking to the Kohanim. Shimuna Kohanim, v'kshivu Beit Yisrael, we're still in Israel. Okay, it's important. You probably, people, everything you see Beit Yisrael, you just think like Am Yisrael. Remember, Beit Yisrael is the kingdom of Israel as opposed to the kingdom of Yehuda. So here they're usually medayek. When they say Yisrael, they mean the 10 tribes. Okay, Ephraim and the 10 tribes. Ephraim. What? It's Beit HaMelech is Melech Yisrael. Probably, but when they say Yehuda, they're talking about the kingdom of Yehuda. Okay, so it's like 2 kingdoms. The Mechael Meir is going to say at this point there is a connection between the 2, not for the benefit of Yehuda. Listen up, Kohanim, the children of Israel, and the house of the king, who actually hasn't been mentioned till now. Because for you is the mishpat. It seems like against you is the mishpat. Okay, not ki lachem mishpat. Not for you is the mishpat, but against you is the mishpat. Ki pach heitem lemitzpah. You were a trap on mitzpah. Vereshet prusa al tavor, and a net is covering tavor. These are 2 mountains, Mitzpah and Tavor. Mitzpah is a city actually, which is just north of Yerushalayim. Okay. And Tavor is Har Tavor. You guys remember Har Tavor? Ever seen Har Tavor? No, guys. Har Tavor is in the Galil. It's a unique mountain. We're about to get to this. It's Sisra. It's the next chapter in Shoftim. Har Tavor is a rounded mountain. It's like very, very distinct. You go by, it's like mamash round. I don't know how to say it. It's like this. It's like a basin, like a upside down basin. And it's really, really distinct. It's also alone. It's not in a mountain range. It's like there. It's really interesting. I don't know the geological how this happened, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who talk about how it happened. But it's clear. No, this Tavor is a very, very. It's also, in a sense, because it's so high and it's the only one. It can very easily guard a large area. In other words, if you're on top, you can see quite a bit around. We'll see that's part of what's happening here. V'shachata setim he'emiku, v'ani musar lechulam. I don't even know how they're going to start trying to explain this pasuk, which is 4 different meanings by the different commentaries. Give me, what does it say?
By preventing the slaughter of offerings, the deviants deepened iniquity, and I castigated them all.
I can say that too in Chinese, I think. Like, say it again.
By preventing the slaughter of offerings,
korbanot.
The deviants deepened iniquity, so they became even worse.
Okay.
And I castigate them all, and I'm against all of them.
Okay, let's say that. So I can't explain it any better. When we go into it, we'll explain it. Okay. This pasuk is very hard. Okay. Yeah, give us another one. Go ahead, Shushan.
And the apostates are deep dyed in slaughter, and I'm rejected by them all.
Wow.
I told you, I'm deep dyed in slaughter.
Like deep fried.
No, but not like different words, different subjects.
Yeah, it's different meaning. It's a completely no korbanot there, right?
All right.
Slaughter, right? Anyone else have anything fun they want to share with us?
I think mine's the same.
And the apostates are deep dyed in slaughter, and I am rejected by them all. Yeah. What? Yeah. You have that also? Okay, well, okay, we'll see it when we go in. But you understand, Hoshea is difficult. Difficult, yeah. Okay. אני ידעתי אפרים וישראל לא נכחד ממני. I know Ephraim, who the I is probably Hashem or the prophet, and Yisrael no nikchad mimeni, and Israel isn't hidden from me. Ki ata hizneta Ephraim nitma Yisrael, because now Ephraim is unfaithful and Israel is defiled. Lo yitnu ma'alalehem lashuv el Elohim. They won't give their devices to come back to their God. Ki ruach znunim bekirbam vet Adonai lo yadau. Because a spirit of what? Harlotriousness is in them. Vet Hashem lo yadau. And Hashem they don't know. V'ana geon Yisrael befanav. And the Geon Yisrael, which here is open to the pride of Israel, will bear witness for him. V'Yisrael ve'Ephraim yikashlu ba'avonam. Israel and Ephraim will stumble on their own sins. Iniquity. See? They use the iniquity. See? Kashal gam Yehuda imam. And Yehuda also is stumbling with them. B'tzonam u'vivkaram yelchu. Levakesh Adonai v'lo yimtzau. They will go with their sheep and their cattle to search and to beseech or search for God. Search isn't the right word. What's the right word? Levakesh. No. Seek is the word. To seek Hashem, and they won't find him. Chalatz mihem. He has withdrawn from him. Ba'adonai bagadu. And Hashem they have revolted or rebelled. Ki banim zarim yaladu. They had foreign children. Ata yochlem chodesh et chedkehem. Now the month will eat their portion, which is also very good. That is one of the Perushim. Maybe even one of the more prominent of the Perushim. I didn't think of it when I read that. That's one of the options.
No, because like whenever destruction happens, it's always up.
That's what I don't remember which one. We'll see. One of the Parshanim says it, and others say it also. Yafeh. So it didn't help much that I just read this and translated for you. So let's take a look at some of our commentaries here on how to do this. I actually had fun making this page. So again, the Malbim is going to be our major. The Malbim is going to be our major. Our major line. Okay, I brought the Malbim on each of the psukim, and when I thought that Radak and Rashi add something important or different, very different than what the Malbim says, then I brought them. Okay, so we're gonna sort of, if you've seen, I had fun. I put them in different fonts and not different fonts. I put I bolded the Radak and I italiced the Rashi. Right? If you italic someone, can I italic you? I italic Rashi. So there. So we sort of see that and the regular. I know there's no smiley face, but yours just yours has the smiley face. You're the lucky one. Ariel won today. All right.
Also mine. Sad face.
Oh, you have it too.
Sad face.
Where?
Sad face.
That is funny.
Okay, you got this. Okay, so yalla. So let's start the story. The Malbim is gonna play out the story, the backdrop of Perek Aleph, and the Radak's gonna give a different backstory. So like the whole chapter is gonna start on two different paths. All right, let's start off with the Malbim storyline, and we're gonna read the Radak's. And we're going to have to at the same time simultaneously be on two different tracks of what's going on in the chapter, even though some of the places they'll intertwine and go back. So yalla. Says the Malbim, Shimuzot HaKohanim, Hem Kohanei HaAgalim, שהיו מסיתים את העם, לבל ילכו לירושלים. ובית ישראל היו נפתים אחריהם. ובית המלך האזינו, שהם העמידו שומרים על הדרכים, והיו הורגים את כל מי שרצה לעלות לרגל. Okay, thank you. That was a lot to unwrap here. what's going on here? Well, the story is what's going on in Mamlechet Israel. Mamlechet Israel, we just talked about the denigration of the moral standards. That was the previous chapter. Now we're going to talk about the denigration of the spiritual standards, or the religious standards, Yoter Nachon. Okay, so what's going on? He's talking to these Kohanim. The Kohanim in Israel are false Kohanim. They weren't Kohanim at first. Or maybe they were a little bit, but mostly they're not Kohanim. Yerovam, and here you have to go back into history, which is always the source of many of the troubles of Mamlechet Yisrael from the very beginning. Mamash, the very beginning of Malchut Yisrael, when Yerovam breaks off from Rechavam. Yerovam is Ben Navat, is from Ephraim, breaks off from Shlomo's son, Rechavam, and he starts the kingdom of Israel, and his main problem, one of the very first problems he has, is the fact that people are going to go to Beit HaMikdash. Obviously, they're going to go to Beit HaMikdash. Where would they go? So he makes, we must have talked about this in so many different lessons, because it's so important. He makes two groups of two places where he puts Eglei Zahav, he puts calves, golden calves, double ones. Two in Dan, up in Dan, which is in the north, and two in Bet El, okay? 2 in Tel Aviv. 15 in Tel Aviv. 2 in Beit El. Okay, 2 in Beit El. And in that he supplants Beit HaMikdash. That's the first thing. There's no Beit HaMikdash, there's this. Now he needs Kohanim. So he makes up Kohanim. You buy your way, you do it, whatever it is, he makes up Kohanim. And they're the Kohanim that he's being referenced in here. Now, what do? The people still wanted to go down to Beit HaMikdash, because that's what they've been doing for the past. Someone built it. So what? We're talking about for 40 years. 40 years. That was what Am Yisrael was hoping to do the whole time. So what do? What does he do, Ezra?
He made a gate and blocked the path to Yerushalayim.
So that's the nice version.
Okay.
That's the nice version. What Ezra said.
Why?
Because it was a different kingdom.
One second. But the Malbim, you guys didn't read what he said. Ubeit HaMelech, the second line here. Beit HaMelech Ezinu, shehem העמידו שומרים על הדרכים, והיו הורגים את כל מי שרצה לעלות לרגל. They would murder anyone going to Beit HaMikdash. So Ezra, your wall just became a lot worse. It became the Berlin Wall. That's what it became, with the guards on top. Why?
Yeah, anybody that broke the wall.
Because if they go to Yehuda, they'll be under the sway of Rechavam, the king of Yehuda. And Yerovam wants them loyal to him. He wants to differentiate between the kingdoms, make sure they will stay loyal to him. He realizes he has to give an answer to the religious needs, and this is what he does. Yeah, this is Pshat, okay? This is the killing is not Pshat. This is one of the first places that we may hear that he killed the people going.
So when you say like the Kurbanot, so they're not exactly going
It's not Avodah Zarah.
Oh, it's not Avodah Zarah?
No, not Avodah Zarah at this point. This is not Avodah Zarah. We talked about in depth how it leads to Avodah Zarah, and their problem, how it leads in the end to Avodah Zarah, because obviously you're going to lead Avodah Zarah when you're off the path already. But they're serving they're bringing Korbanot to Hashem.
But the Kohanim are not the real Kohanim?
No.
So would that be considered?
There are lots of problems here. Yes, but they're all doing it for Hashem. Realize, at this point, in Beit El and Dan, they were serving God. They were serving Hashem.
The wrong way. But
The wrong way, but they were the wrong way, the wrong place, the wrong way, the wrong people, but they were serving Hashem. On the mountain next to this, they were doing Avodah Zarah. That's another problem. That happens a little later. It doesn't happen immediately. At first, Am Yisrael are serving Hashem. There's no Avodah Zarah at this point. Remember, Shlomo's time, everyone, Beit HaMikdash is a novel idea. It's still early. It has been 40, 50, maybe 60 years, but it's still new.
And this is still happening during the first Beit HaMikdash or second Beit HaMikdash?
This is all the first Beit HaMikdash. This is the beginning of the first Beit HaMikdash. This is very early. The Beit HaMikdash is new.
So this is right after Shlomo HaMelech died.
Shlomo died. Shlomo builds Beit HaMikdash. Right? It's so bad. It's so upsetting. It's so upsetting.
It's a power struggle. We see it everywhere.
Right? It's a power struggle. The king uses religion. The first Beit HaMikdash with the Gilui Shechina and all the miracles is cut off for probably around 3/4 of Am Yisrael. Right? If you did the Yachasim between Yehuda and Yisrael, Yehuda is one tribe, they're a big tribe, but they're one tribe. Binyamin is with them, not such a big tribe. And 10 other tribes who weren't.
The 3/4. I know it's
Whatever, throw out.
ish.
That's what I'm saying. 3/4 ish, give or take, have no connection to Beit HaMikdash from 50 years after it was
Is
built.
it not something now?
What?
Now we can't go on the Harvai. Think on the same thing. They're blocking us from going up there.
Yeah, so we don't have a Beit HaMikdash.
Still, we're.
I
We had a tough question on this with Nehemiah.
It's about what we should be doing or not be doing.
If we believe we should be doing it, that's not wrong.
It's an interesting idea. Are we being blocked? It's not the same thing as the people. The people in Yehuda were going to Beit HaMikdash. Obviously, the people in Israel were being blocked by their own kings, as opposed to us who are being blocked by our own police. Okay. Oops,
But if we
okay.
say, like we said in Nehemiah, that we're supposed to bring korbanot to the place, even though there's
Okay.
no.
Okay.
They were blocked.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna stop them thing? What? Yeah.
The kingdom of Yehuda was not stopping them from coming, right?
No, Kingdom of Yehuda would want them to come, but it wasn't. The wall was on the other side. They were being blocked. Right? They would have liked the people to come. It helps them. Well, yeah, fair. Were there tunnels? You know what? I bet there were. I bet there were. I bet there were methods. I bet there were ways that people tried. I'm sure people tried to go. I'm sure. Yeah. Machon, families were cut off. It's can.
like in Germany, Berlin Wall.
Can. I didn't stop to say the Berlin Wall. I met there was something very crude in a sense of it's like a break. It's like an unnatural break. This break.
This that happened, the break was saying, "Oh, it's so stupid," but this was said by Hashem as a punishment to Shlomo.
Well, he didn't say this.
No, not this part.
No, so it's important. The breaking of the kingdoms was, but there was there was an attempt to possibly have two kingdoms in peace with one another. Hashem didn't say they have to be war, but Yerovam immediately understands that he has to rule. Sort of like politics now, right? When you do it.
You have to hold power.
Okay, it's me. It's broke up, so I want it all. I can't. There's no double. And it's Mehmet the Midrash talks about. The Midrash says there's a really famous Midrash, guys, that says.
Can I say something very stupid?
Wait 1 second. Let me just give a nice Midrash, a famous Midrash that's like important in this thing. It says that Hashem told Yerovam, he took him by his hand, and he said to Yerovam, David, listen to this Midrash. Hashem took Yerovam by his hand and said, listen, come with me, and you and I and Ben David will walk together in Gan Eden. It's like, and then Yerovam asks the great question, who's first? And Hashem says, Ben David is first. He says, sorry, I don't want that. So the Mamash Chazal see it as a possibility. The break could have led to good things even. It could have been okay. But the question, mi barosh, who's going to lead? They couldn't hear that. They could not hear that. Anyway, so let's get back to our mom. Okay, this is a backdrop of the story. So now when he's talking to... Go ahead. We like stupid.
Especially when you sell it so well.
What is the rule of dividing these two kingdoms? Like, I really don't understand. Like when Shlomo HaMelech just died, and it's just like that.
What do you have to think? Politically or spiritually?
Both.
Well, spiritually is Shlomo's chataim, Shlomo's sins.
Okay, that's one reason.
That's the spiritual reason. It's a direct punishment. Avi Achia Shiloni, the prophet. Can. It's mamash. And politically, Yerovam makes really stupid decisions. Politically, that's what happens. Mamash kacha. It's defined. He comes and they come to him and they say, "Take off the taxes, please. It's too much. Your father Shlomo put a lot of taxes on the people. The people can't serve in Beit HaMikdash. They had a lot of taxes. weren't money taxes. Were people taxes that they had to do all kinds of jobs. And they asked, please take it down. And then it said Rechavam goes to the older people and they say to him, his older advisors say, you should listen to them. He goes to the younger advisor and he says, yeah, just hold it stronger. They're just They're just being weak. They're if you show one little weakness, they'll run all over you. So he says, so he goes and he chooses that, and then they say, bye.
So Ben Shlomo
That's it.
Trouble,
And then
Ben
they break
had
off.
trouble too.
What was the spiritual reason?
Shlomo sins. Yeah, Shlomo's, there's some serious problems with Malchut Shlomo. Tov, let's get back. Okay, that was very Tov. Let's just finish at least this first Malbim, and then we'll stop. Okay, so that next time we could start again from the Malbim and just go on. So I don't want to stop in the middle so much. But anyway, so this is the backdrop. And when he's talking to the Kohanim, these are the Kohanim he's referencing, the Kohanei Agalim. And the king he's talking about is the king of Yisrael, who continuously, from Yerovam until now, Hoshea's time, which is a couple hundred years, have been killing people who try to go to Beit HaMikdash. At some point, I imagine people stop trying to get to Beit HaMikdash, but the reason they stop is because they don't want to be killed. Okay? In other words, it's very effective to kill people who try to cross, then people stop going across.
The next Yerobam.
ועל זה אמרו, כי לכם המשפט. כי משפט השם יבוא בשבילכם, שאתם הגורמים לכל הרעה. So, לכם המשפט here, he's saying, the mishpat here is Hashem's mishpat, but it's because of you. Ki lachem biglalchem. Because of you is this mishpat against Am Yisrael. Because of what you've been doing all these years. You false Kohanim and horrible kings. Ki pach haytem lemitzpah. Mitzvah v'tavor hayu shnei harim. Two mountains. Shayu holchim derech sham liYerushalayim. They were the main roads to Yerushalayim. Ve'emidu sham shomrim. Lishmor shelo ya'aleh ish laregel. So Mitzpah was Tavor was like a middle place, that big mountain that I said, that round mountain. There they would stand for all the northern people coming down to Beit HaMikdash. They would stop them. They have roadblocks. They would see someone walking. They could see very far from the Tavor. You would see someone going far. They would send out a sortie. They would send out a group of riders who would stop them. Passports. What are you doing? Where are you going? What's the point? Why are they? And that's Tavor. That's the first line of defense. And the last line of defense was Mitzpah, which is right above Yerushalayim. Okay, I would say in Binyamin area, maybe the border of Binyamin. It seems like it's more deep into Binyamin, but right before they come into Yerushalayim, and that was probably a much harsher border. But those are two mountains that they were two stops that they would stop the people. That's how the Malbim explains. והעמידו שם שומרים לשמור שלא יעלו איש לרגל, וימליץ שבמצפה היה הפח ללכוד את העוברים, ובתבור היה מקום רחבת ידיים יותר, פרסו רשת, סביב ההר, לתפוס כל העולה שם. Right, so he says, what's the difference between a pach and a reshet? He says a pach is a trap, and he says mitzpeh, which is there were less paths to go there in Mitzpeh, because it's mountains, like you guys saw the mountains on the way to Rav Litzman, right? That's what we're talking about, that area. Very mountainous. So there are certain ways to get there. Now you're not going to have many ways, but Tavor, which is a plain, that's where you have to put out a reshet. You have to put out a net, okay? Because it's to catch everyone going through there. ואתם בית המלך הייתם הפח והרשת, כי זה נעשה בפקודתכם. You, the kingdom, you're the trap and you're the net, because you commanded them to be there. So this is the beginning of the thing. He's going to be rallying against the kings, and the kings mostly, a little less the Kohanim. Both they're to blame. In other words, even in the pasuk, if you guys saw the pasuk, Shim'u zot haKohanim ve'kshivu Beit Yisrael u'Beit HaMelech ha'azinu. So it seems to be referencing the Kohanim, the people, and the king, right? In the words. But the Malbim reads it that he's blaming the Kohanim and the king. The people were misled by you guys. They're misled. They're not in the focus of this rebuke. We'll see later they'll return into the focus of the rebuke. Okay, the people themselves. But right now it's the leadership, the corrupt religious leadership. That's who are being referenced as according to the Malbim. We'll see the Radak next week has a whole different take of who's being talked to in this parak. Bezrat Hashem.